Welcome to Spiritual Foundations for Life. This is day number 327. In the middle of the Garden of Eden, there was a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God had expressly told Adam and Eve not to eat from that tree because if they did, they would surely die, according to Genesis chapter 2:17. God had a plan for Adam and Eve, but suddenly the devil came along and said in Genesis chapter 3, verse 1, "Has God said, 'You shall not eat from any tree of the garden'?" Well, no, that's not what God said. God had said they could not eat from one tree. Satan twisted God's words and said that they could not eat from any tree. And then in reaction, Eve actually added to God's command and said, "No, we can't eat it or even touch that tree," according to Genesis chapter 3, verse 3. See, to fight Satan's attack on God's word, Eve ended up adding to God's word, and that is one of the ways that Satan's deception works. He gets us to add things to God's word to make it even more difficult for us, and then we get frustrated and give up. Now, then came the fall, when Adam and Eve disobeyed God, and Adam deliberately chose to sin. And what were the consequences of that fall? Well, number one, spiritual death. Adam died on that day. He didn't die physically, he died spiritually, and he was now separated spiritually from God. Now, physical death would be a consequence as well, but in his case, that would be over 900 years later. The essence of Adam's fall was the deliberate breaking of his intimate relationship with God. Sin can only be understood in terms of our relationship to God and God's will. Sinful behavior is a result of fallen humanity attempting to find purpose and meaning in life independent of God. And because we inherited Adam's sin, we were all born dead in our trespasses and sins, every one of us. Romans chapter 5, verse 12 says, "Therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all men, because all sinned." Ephesians chapter 2 verses 1 and 2 says, "As for you, you were dead," this is written to Christians, "you were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now work in those who are disobedient." So when we were born into this world, we are physically alive, but we are actually spiritually dead. We are all separated from God. Our key point today is that we are all born spiritually dead and we need to find a way to be brought back to life. Our key verse, Romans chapter 5, verse 12, "Therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man and death through sin, and in this way death came to all men because all sinned." God bless you. See you tomorrow for another episode of Spiritual Foundations for Life.